Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Some brand new content is coming up real soon, specifically in terms of Legion Remix for the patch 11.2.5. And Remix is going to be filled with a ton of cosmetics that players will be able to unlock. Some of which you'll unlock through achievements and open world content and endgame content. Others you'll be able to purchase with bronze, either new rewards or potentially returning rewards from that expansion. While others you have to unlock the good old-fashioned way, like the artifact weapons of back in Legion. Artifact weapons of that expansion, AP weapons for short, were a core component of that expansion that not only was a way that players were able to progress in power, but you could also unlock various different cosmetics and visuals of those weapons, since you were essentially stuck with the same loadout for the rest of the expansion. But many of these appearances were actually so good looking that players to this day remember them fondly, and Legion Remix will be your opportunity to be able to obtain some of these appearances all over again during this event. Based on Blizzard's most recent blue post regarding Legion Remix, you will have access to up to 180 artifact weapon variations that you'll be able to unlock across every playable class during this experience. And I want to go over exactly which appearances you could look forward to, as well as some of the different paths that you'll be able to unlock them. This isn't necessarily an in-depth guide on artifact weapons that I'm planning to make once the content actually releases, since there'll likely be some changes to how you unlock some of these variations, but I still want to go over all the various appearances you can look forward to if you're planning to play during Legion Remix. As always, if you guys want to see more regular updates regarding some upcoming content for either War Within, patch 11.2.5, or possibly Midnight Alpha, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So one of the first few appearances you'll get to unlock pretty early on is the original weapon appearance, which you'll get basically whenever you get your artifact weapon, which is pretty early on into the Legion Remix timeline. Like, you'll encounter a quest with some of the intro timey-wimey infinite dragonflight stuff of this alternate version of Legion that's attacked by demons, and then you'll get access to your weapon very quickly, and then you'll be put into like the normal Legion timeline instead to progress through, and you'll be able to get your tint pretty early on. You'll get the base version of the weapon plus 3 additional tints to that weapon as well, which you'll get basically for free, almost accidentally, just by playing the game. One of the first tints will come from finishing out the story questline of one single zone with a dungeon at the end of the run to unlock one of the different pillars of creation. There's 5 total, and there's 5 different zones for you to encounter at the beginning of Legion, which will quest through. Another tint will come from completing a quest of recovering the Light's Heart, which will be an item that will be used later down the line towards the tail end of the Legion main storyline, but it'll be also something that you'll do automatically when visiting your Order Hall. Speaking of an Order Hall, completing one of the major campaign efforts of that Order Hall, which you'll do naturally just by advancing through the Order Hall, which is like your core area, your main hub that your class will go to outside of just the Legion version of Dalaran. You'll be visiting that place a lot, and it'll be filled full of good quests for you to do early on, and a lot of those you'll just simply unlock naturally just by existing and questing and exploring and just playing the game. The next variation is going to be the upgraded appearance, which is basically like a nicer version of the original skins. If you look at them, the upgraded variation does look better. It's like a one-up of the original version. For some classes, it looks a little bit different. For others, it looks like a familiar, but just an upgraded look of the original. It is one of the nicer versions, and a lot of those will come from some of the more completionist entry-level content that are really easy to do. The base one you'll be able to get just by completing the entire Order Hall campaign, which you'll want to do during Legion Remix anyway. It'll be a source of gear and a source of quests, and also it'll help you advance to future phases of the content later down the line. So finishing out the main story of your Order Hall also will allow you to eventually unlock your Order Hall mounts and other cosmetic rewards as well, so there's multiple reasons for it, and this is something you'll unlock naturally just by playing Legion Remix. Another will be earned by unlocking all of the traits, which isn't that difficult to do from our testing on the PTR. Another one will be unlocked originally from AP weapon research, which was like this element that allowed you to collect more power from dailies and quests over time for your weapon. Eventually that one got awarded to you automatically just for hitting max level, and I'm not sure exactly how Legion Remix is going to accomplish this because no research will be added to your weapon in the same way, since weapons function a little bit differently this time around. but they will likely have some sort of a replacement for it. And once we know exactly what it is, potentially we'll put it up in the guide, as I am planning on going over all of these weapons in the future, but this one for now is yet to be determined, but ideally it shouldn't take all that long. The final tint for those upgraded versions of the weapons will be unlocked through archaeology quests, which those are mostly easy. You'll just need to do a bit of archaeology, but if you're not a fan of archaeology, this may be your least favorite activity. But outside of this, the upgraded variations of these weapons also should be pretty easy to obtain, just like the original tints as well. Another variation will be called the Valorous Artifact Weapons, or the way I like to refer to them as the Balance of Power weapon skins. The Balance of Power will be a quest that you'll take some time to complete. It is a quest line that spans across multiple zones, multiple dungeons, and even raids. It is a lengthy, long quest line that you'll do over a fairly long period of time, even during Legion Remix, but once you complete it, you'll have access to yet another type of artifact weapon, as well as some of the different tints that'll become available for you later down the line. The rest of the tints, after you complete the big, bad Balance of Power questline, are unlocked by completing some of the activities worthy of a champion of an order hall. So those will be quite actually some big tasks. One of those will be for slaying 8 world bosses, and Legion has a lot of world bosses for you to slay. They're likely to be on maybe potentially a faster rotation than they were in the original Legion, which was once a week. The remakes potentially could put them up once a day, or maybe every couple of days, every half a week reset. We don't really know for sure, but it looked like they were advancing at a fairly rapid pace during our PTR testing. Another one will be unlocked for completing plus 15 Keystone dungeons, which is incredibly easy. But the scaling in Legion for those dungeons was actually really different than what we have in War Within. This one sounds difficult, but it actually won't be. So even if you're someone who is not into Mythic Plus dungeons, this is one of the entry-level keys that you should easily get into. The last tint will be unlocked is actually also another lengthy one, Glory of the Legion Hero achievement, which requires you to complete a number of dungeon achievements on Mythic difficulty, as well as raid achievements throughout raid runs in order to unlock. So this one is something you will be working on for quite some time. But with so many players and eventually the ability for you to be able to solo this content, I imagine unlocking all those dungeon and raid achievements will eventually become easier once you have the character powerful enough within Legion Remix. Now, the last variation of artifact weapons, which is the most unique one that will be available from Legion Remix, is the hidden artifact skins. And as the name suggests, those drop from hidden specialty quests, which are unique for every single class out there. So the variance of difficulty of how you unlock these is very different for every other class out there. However, guides have been written extensively for every single one of these weapons, so they're not longer technically hidden, but the way you unlock them and the way you come across them in Remix will also be very, very different to each and every single one of the player. Some of these will come from specialty quests that you have to just unlock randomly just by entering a zone or using your artifact ability. Others will just pop up out of nowhere, while others are a little bit more, you have to really grind for them specifically. Like the Outlaw Rogue questline, I remember, for the hidden skin was actually to run a number of dungeons, one of them being Vault of the Wardens, where you have to run it endlessly over and over and over. Specifically, you have to run the Vault of the Wardens to slay Ash Golem, and players would actually find ways to clip through walls and fall through the dungeon to basically skip past the first boss into the third boss room, slay him really quickly, fall off the edge, run out of the dungeon, reset. And players would do this as a 5-man rogue group on normal difficulty, so you didn't need to take just rogues clipping through walls and falling through and exploding essentially to get to some of these bosses, which is something a lot of players did back then just to skip the grind. But you needed one of the bindings of the Thunder Fury, because the weapon skin for us was the Thunder Fury. The other one you would obtain from Neltharian's Lair, and that's what you also do with a really funky skip, where if you could jump to a certain location and use a Goblin Glider, because back then in dungeons you could use Goblin Gliders, you could actually get outside of the outskirts of the dungeon and just walk around all of the bosses from Rakmora, Ularog, Daraxus, and just get straight to Dargrul. Everybody pops your cooldowns, burst the guy down, and see if you get yet another binding, and you would make those runs over and over and over until another binding dropped. You get the bindings, you get some reagents from the auction house, go to the top of a mountain, find a thunder dragon who summons the wind lord who grants you the weapon. It was a long, extensive quest line that a lot of players did, but it was just an awesome bonding experience. Not every class is going to have to go through that. Like Assassination Rogues, I'm pretty sure just had to go to onto the Dalaran sewers area and then loot the item that gave you the skin, and they were good to go. So some classes are going to have a really easy time getting those, and others are going to have a harder time. But also what's going to take you a little bit of time is some of the different tints once you actually initially unlock the hidden skin, because you can only start collecting tints for these weapons once you've unlocked at least one version. Now, the other tints are unlocked by completing 30 dungeons, which is pretty easy, or 200 world quests, which you can do while hard mode is active or heroic world 2 is active, because that gives you other rewards like more Sargerai armor sets like what I'm wearing here. The last one is actually going to be unobtainable for Legion Remix. The last tint is for slaying 1,000 players, but since there won't really be PvP available during Remix, it's very unlikely that you'll be able to do this whatsoever. Potentially Blizz could change this quest for Legion Remix specifically to maybe change it to slay 1,000 demons instead, so that you could run around doing new content, raids, dungeons, all those things. Eventually you would have slayed 1,000 demons to be able to obtain this weapon. Maybe that's an adjustment they'll make in the future. Or potentially, once you unlock that weapon skin, once you can bring the character out of Legion Remix, maybe you can go and do some PvP to unlock that variation later down the line, since those skins are technically unlockable even outside of Legion Remix as well. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did enjoy this update or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like, as I would very much appreciate it. Helps out the channel tremendously. Also, be sure to join our Discord community for any future guides that we'll have for Legion Remix, or potentially for any updates regarding Midnight Alpha. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as usual, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.